The rise of the human supercarrier. The Galactic Council had long prided itself on being the ultimate authority among the stars. For millennia, they had maintained order, ensuring that no single civilization could dominate the galaxy. But now, whispers of an unprecedented power were circulating, shaking the very foundations of the Council's rule. In the grand hall of the Celestial Citadel, tension was thick as High Chancellor Sellos addressed the assembly. "We are faced with a situation that demands our utmost attention." His voice resonated with authority. "Reports of the human capabilities are troubling. They have developed a fleet of supercarriers that rival even our most advanced ships." The room buzzed with murmurs of concern. Among the council members was Admiral Cuss, a seasoned veteran known for her strategic genius. Her eyes narrowed as she reviewed the data projected before them. "These supercarriers are not just massive," she said, her voice carrying a weight of gravity. "They are equipped with technology we have never encountered before. Their capabilities could shift the balance of power in the galaxy." The idea of humans, once considered a minor race, now wielding such power was unthinkable. The Galactic Council had always maintained control, but this new development threatened to upend everything they had built. Meanwhile, in a remote corner of the galaxy, on the edge of a lush green planet, a human representative was meeting with an alien envoy from the Zorth Dominion. Commander Elena Carter, a fearless leader of the United Earth Forces, was known for her tactical brilliance and unwavering resolve. Across from her sat Ambassador Corrin, a stoic figure from the Zorth Dominion, whose people had a reputation for their formidable military prowess. "We've detected an unusual surge of activity from the humans," Corrin said, his voice measured and calm. "Your technology is advancing at an unprecedented rate. We need to understand your intentions before it's too late." Elena nodded, her gaze steady. "We are aware of the situation. Humanity has been rapidly developing its capabilities, and we are prepared to meet any challenge head-on. Our supercarriers are equipped with cutting-edge technology, but we must remain vigilant." As the two leaders spoke, an ominous presence loomed in the background. The Celestial Citadel's sensors had picked up an unusual signal emanating from a nearby star system, a distress call from a mining colony that had recently fallen silent. The Council decided to investigate, suspecting that this might be related to the mysterious rise of human power. A small task force was dispatched to the coordinates. Upon arrival, they discovered a scene of utter devastation. The mining colony had been completely destroyed, its structures in ruins, and its inhabitants nowhere to be found. The only sign of what had transpired was a message scrawled in hurried, desperate writing on a wall: "The Guardians are coming." The significance of this message was not immediately clear, but it was evident that something was amiss. The Council convened once again to discuss the implications of this discovery. Admiral Cuss took the lead in the discussions, her mind racing with possibilities. "This is no ordinary attack," she said, her voice filled with urgency. "The Guardians mentioned in the message could be a new force emerging from the shadows. We need to gather more intelligence about these so-called Guardians and their connection to humanity." The urgency of the situation was apparent. The Council knew they had to act quickly to uncover the truth behind the Guardians and their relation to humanity's rising power. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the next steps they took would determine the outcome of this unfolding saga. As the Council prepared for the next phase of their investigation, Commander Elena Carter and Ambassador Corrin continued their discussions, each aware of the growing threat that loomed over their respective peoples. The quest for answers had just begun, and the galaxy was on the brink of a new era, one that would test the limits of human ingenuity and resolve. The Guardian's secret. The Celestial Citadel's grand hall was filled with the echoes of heated debate. The Council members were grappling with the implications of the recent attack on the mining colony and the mysterious message about the Guardians. High Chancellor Sellos, deeply concerned, sought to address the growing anxiety among the Council members. "We must uncover the truth about these Guardians," he declared. "The attack on the colony was a clear sign that something significant is happening. We need to understand who or what these guardians are and how they are connected to humanity. Admiral Cuss and her team of experts began analyzing the data from the destroyed mining colony. Among the recovered evidence was a strange artifact, a device of unknown origin, pulsating with an eerie light. The artifact was unlike anything they had seen before, and its purpose was shrouded in mystery. As the Council delved deeper into the investigation, Commander Elena Carter received new intelligence from her own sources. The reports indicated that the Guardians were not just a single entity, but a coalition of different factions, each with their own agendas. The complexity of the situation was growing more apparent. Elena arranged a meeting with Ambassador Corrin to share the new findings. They met in a secure location, away from prying eyes. Elena's expression was grave as she presented the information. "We've discovered that the Guardians are not a unified group," she explained. "They are made up of several factions, each with its own motives. This adds another layer of complexity to the situation." Ambassador Corrin's face was stern as he absorbed the information. "This changes everything," he said. "If the Guardians are a coalition, their motives and objectives could vary widely. We need to establish contact with these factions to understand their intentions." The two leaders decided to focus their efforts on identifying and reaching out to the key factions within the Guardians. They knew that understanding the Guardians' true nature was crucial to devising a strategy to counter any potential threat. Meanwhile, on the edge of the galaxy, a clandestine meeting was taking place between two figures who had been watching the unfolding events from afar. One was an enigmatic alien known as Raxus, who had long been a thorn in the side of the Galactic Council. The other was a human named Dr. Emily Harris, a brilliant scientist with extensive knowledge of advanced technologies. "We've seen the Council's response to the recent developments," Raxus said, his voice laced with intrigue. "Their fear of the Guardians is palpable, but what they don't realize is that the Guardians are not the only force at play." Dr. Harris nodded in agreement. "Humanity's rapid technological advancement is indeed a game-changer. We've developed new technologies that could shift the balance of power, but we must be cautious in how we wield this power." The conversation between Raxus and Dr. Harris revealed that there were deeper, more complex dynamics at play than anyone had initially realized. The Guardians were just one piece of the puzzle, and there were other forces at work that could influence the outcome of the galaxy-wide conflict. As the investigation continued, the Council members worked tirelessly to decode the artifact and decipher its meaning. The artifact's strange energy signatures suggested that it was of ancient origin, possibly linked to a long-lost civilization. This added another layer of intrigue to the mystery surrounding the Guardians. In the midst of the uncertainty, a message arrived from the edge of the galaxy. It was a plea for help from a remote outpost that had been cut off from communication. The message hinted at an impending invasion by an unknown force. The Council had no choice but to respond to the distress call and investigate the situation. As the various factions in the galaxy prepared for the coming storm, it became clear that the conflict was evolving into something far greater than anyone had anticipated. The Guardians, the rise of humanity, and the mysterious artifact were all interconnected, and the outcome of this epic struggle would determine the future of the galaxy. Shadows of the past. The Galactic Council's task force arrived at the remote outpost, only to find it in a state of chaos. The once thriving facility was now in ruins, with signs of a fierce battle evident everywhere. The distress message had been cut off abruptly, and there was no trace of the inhabitants. Admiral Cuss led her team through the wreckage, her sharp eyes scanning for any clues that could shed light on what had happened. The scene was eerily silent, save for the occasional crackle of burning debris. As they ventured deeper into the outpost, they discovered more evidence of a brutal attack: shattered equipment, scorched walls, and lifeless bodies of both humans and aliens. It was clear that whoever, or whatever, had attacked the outpost had done so with overwhelming force. But there was something else that caught Cuss' attention, a symbol etched into the walls, one that matched the markings on the mysterious artifact they had recovered from the mining colony. The symbol was ancient, possibly predating the rise of the current galactic civilizations. "This symbol," Cuss murmured, her brow furrowed in thought. "It's the same as the one on the artifact. Could it be that the Guardians are linked to an ancient civilization we've yet to discover?" Her thoughts were interrupted by a transmission from one of her officers. "Admiral, we found something in the Central Command Center. You need to see this." Cuss hurried to the command center, where her team had uncovered a hidden chamber. Inside, they found a series of holographic recordings, documenting the events leading up to the attack. The recordings revealed a horrifying truth. The Guardians were not merely a coalition of factions, but the remnants of an ancient, powerful race that had once ruled the galaxy. The recordings showed that the Guardians had been in hibernation for millennia, waiting for the right moment to re-emerge and reclaim their lost empire. The rise of humanity, with its rapid technological advancements, had triggered their awakening. They saw humanity as both a threat and an opportunity, a force that could either aid in their resurgence or stand in their way. Admiral Cuss realized the gravity of the situation. The Guardians were not just a threat to the Galactic Council, they were a threat to the entire galaxy. The Council needed to act quickly if they were to prevent the Guardians from gaining a foothold. Back at the Celestial Citadel, High Chancellor Salos convened an emergency meeting to discuss the findings. The Council members were shocked by the revelation that the Guardians were the remnants of an ancient civilization. The stakes had never been higher. "We cannot afford to underestimate the Guardians," Salos said gravely. "They possess knowledge and technology far beyond our own. If they succeed in re-establishing their dominance, it could mean the end of our way of life." Admiral Cuss proposed a bold plan to counter the Guardians. She suggested forming an alliance with other powerful civilizations in the galaxy, including those who have traditionally been rivals of the Galactic Council. The only way to stand a chance against the Guardians was through unity and cooperation. The Council was divided on the issue. Some members were hesitant to ally with their former enemies, while others recognized the necessity of such a coalition. In the end, the Council agreed to explore the possibility of forming an alliance, but they knew it would be a difficult and delicate process. Meanwhile, Commander Elena Carter and Ambassador Corrin continued their efforts to uncover more information about the Guardians. They had managed to establish contact with one of the factions within the Guardians, a group that seemed more willing to negotiate than the others. The faction's leader, known as Calico, had expressed a desire to learn more about humanity and its potential role in the galaxy. Elena and Corrin arranged a meeting with Zalakor, hoping to gain valuable insights into the Guardians' motives and intentions. The meeting was tense, with both sides wary of the other. Zalakor, a tall and imposing figure, spoke in a calm but commanding tone. "Your people have accomplished much in a short time," Zalakor said, his voice resonating with a strange, ancient wisdom. "But you are treading on dangerous ground. The galaxy is not what it seems. There are forces at work that you cannot comprehend." Elena held her ground, determined to show that humanity was not to be underestimated. "We may be newcomers to the galaxy, but we have faced challenges before. We are prepared to defend ourselves and our allies." Zalakor regarded her with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Perhaps you have potential," he mused. "But potential alone is not enough. The Guardians have a destiny to fulfill, and nothing will stand in our way." As the meeting concluded, Elena and Corrin knew that the road ahead would be fraught with peril. The Guardians were a formidable adversary, but humanity had always thrived in the face of adversity. The time had come to forge new alliances, uncover the secrets of the past, and prepare for the inevitable clash that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The shadows of the past were beginning to converge with the present, and the galaxy was on the brink of a conflict unlike any it had ever seen. The alliance of necessity. The Galactic Council was in a state of unease. The discovery that the Guardians were the remnants of an ancient, powerful civilization had shaken even the most confident members. Admiral Cuss's proposal to form an alliance with other powerful civilizations was met with skepticism, but the looming threat of the Guardians left them with little choice. High Chancellor Salos addressed the council, his tone grave. We stand at a crossroads. The Guardians are a threat, not just to the Galactic Council, but to every civilization in this galaxy. We must put aside our differences and forge an alliance strong enough to confront this menace. The council members, representing various species and star systems, exchanged uneasy glances. Forming an alliance with former rivals was a daunting task. Trust was a rare commodity in the galaxy, and centuries of animosity would not be easily forgotten. Still, the threat of the Guardians was too great to ignore. Admiral Cuss, ever the strategist, took the lead in coordinating the alliance. She knew that the key to success lay in convincing the most powerful factions to join forces. The first step was to approach the Zorth Dominion, whose military prowess was unmatched. Commander Elena Carter, who had already established a rapport with Ambassador Corin, was tasked with initiating the negotiations. The two met in a neutral location, a secluded moon orbiting a distant gas giant. The atmosphere was tense as they prepared to discuss the terms of the alliance. Elena, you understand that the Zorth Dominion does not easily enter into alliances, Corin began, his voice measured. Our history with the Galactic Council is fraught with conflict. However, the threat posed by the Guardians cannot be ignored. Elena nodded, her expression serious. I understand the hesitation, but this is about survival. The Guardians won't stop until they've reasserted their dominance over the galaxy. We need the strength of the Zorth Dominion to stand a chance. Corin regarded her thoughtfully. The Dominion values strength and honor. If we are to join this alliance, we need assurances that the Galactic Council will not seek to undermine us once the threat is neutralized. Elena had anticipated this concern. The Council recognizes the necessity of mutual respect in this alliance. We propose a joint command structure where each member civilization has an equal say in strategic decisions. This will ensure that no single faction dominates the alliance. Corin's eyes narrowed as he considered the proposal. A joint command structure is a start, but we will also need to see evidence of the Council's commitment to this alliance. The Zorth Dominion will not commit its forces lightly. Elena leaned forward, her tone firm. You have my word that the Council will honor its commitments. But make no mistake, if we do not unite, the Guardians will pick us off one by one. We either stand together or we fall apart. After a moment of tense silence, Corin finally nodded. Very well. I will relay your proposal to the Dominion's leadership. But understand this, if the Council betrays our trust, the consequences will be severe. With the Zorth Dominion tentatively on board, Admiral Cuss turned her attention to other potential allies. The next target was the Draken Consortium, a powerful and secretive coalition known for its advanced technology and vast economic resources. The Drakens were notoriously independent, rarely involving themselves in galactic politics. Convincing them to join the alliance would be no easy task. To initiate contact, the Council sent envoy Lyra Voss, a diplomat known for her persuasive skills and deep knowledge of the Draken culture. Lyra arrived on Drakkar Prime, the capital of the Draken Consortium, where she was met by a delegation of Drakan officials. The Drakens were a species with a long history of technological innovation, and their cities were marvels of engineering. Lyra was led to a grand chamber where she met with Arkansile, the leader of the consortium. Envoy Voss, your presence here is unusual, Zal remarked, his voice cool and calculating. The Draken Consortium does not typically engage in the affairs of the Galactic Council. What could possibly compel us to consider an alliance? Lyra, ever diplomatic, smiled politely. Arkansile, the threat we face is unlike any other. The Guardians are an ancient civilization with knowledge and power that surpasses even that of the Draken Consortium. They seek to dominate the galaxy once again, and they will stop at nothing to achieve their goal. Zell studied her carefully. And what does the Galactic Council expect from us? The Drakens are not soldiers. We are innovators. Our strength lies in our technology, not in warfare. Lyra nodded in acknowledgement. Precisely. The Council seeks to leverage your technological expertise to develop new strategies and weapons that can counter the Guardians. In return, we offer the combined military strength of the Alliance to protect Draken interests. Zill's expression remained inscrutable. You ask much of us, Envoy. The Draken Consortium has thrived by remaining neutral in galactic conflicts. Entering into an alliance could expose us to risks we have long avoided. Lyra met his gaze with unwavering resolve. I understand the risks, Archon, but the Guardians are a threat to everyone. Their return could plunge the galaxy into darkness. This is a moment of great importance, one that demands unity and cooperation. The Draken Consortium's knowledge and innovation could be the key to defeating the Guardians. Zill remained silent for a moment, weighing the options. Finally, he spoke. The Draken Consortium will consider your proposal. But know this, we will not be used as pawns in a larger game. Our autonomy and interests must be respected. With tentative agreements from both the Zolf Dominion and the Draken Consortium, the Galactic Council's alliance was beginning to take shape. However, there was still much work to be done. The Council needed to secure the support of other powerful factions, including those that had been long-standing enemies. As the Council worked to solidify the alliance, the Guardians were not idle. Across the galaxy, reports of strange activity began to surface. Unexplained disappearances, sudden attacks on remote outposts, and sightings of advanced ships bearing the ancient symbols of the Guardians. The situation was growing more dire by the day. The Guardians were preparing for their return, and time was running out. The fledgling alliance would need to be fully operational if it were to stand any chance of stopping the Guardians. In the shadows, forces were gathering for the final confrontation. The stage was set for a battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy, a battle that would test the limits of the Alliance's strength, resolve, and unity. The Guardians were coming, and the galaxy had never been more divided. But in the face of this overwhelming threat, there was still hope. A hope that, through unity and determination, the galaxy's civilizations could rise above their differences and stand together against the darkness. The Guardians unleashed. The Guardians wasted no time revealing their true power. Across the galaxy, their presence became more pronounced as they unleashed a series of calculated strikes. Their first target was the remote planet of Erindo, home to a vital mining colony that supplied rare minerals essential to starship construction. The attack was swift and brutal, leaving no survivors. The mining outpost, once a bustling hub of activity, was reduced to a lifeless wasteland. News of the Erindo massacre spread quickly, sending shockwaves through the Galactic Council and the fledgling alliance. The Guardians had made their move, and their message was clear. They would not tolerate resistance. In response, Admiral Cuss called an emergency meeting of the Alliance's newly formed War Council. Representatives from the Zolf Dominion, the Draken Consortium, and other member civilizations gathered in the central war room of the Galactic Council's flagship, the Indomitable. The atmosphere was tense as they reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Guardians of escalating their attacks, Admiral Cuss began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Erindo was just the beginning. If we don't act quickly, more worlds will fall. Commander Elena Carter, seated beside the Zorth Ambassador Corin, leaned forward. We need to hit back, and hard. The Guardians are testing our resolve. If we show weakness, they'll continue their rampage unchecked. Archon Zyle, representing the Draken Consortium, nodded in agreement. Our intelligence suggests that the Guardians are targeting strategic locations, places that provide resources, technology, and military advantages. We need to anticipate their next move. The War Council studied the star maps projected in front of them. The Guardians' attacks followed a discernible pattern, striking at key points in the galaxy. Admiral Cuss pointed to a cluster of planets on the map. These worlds are likely their next targets, she said, her tone firm. We need to fortify them and prepare for a counterattack. But more importantly, we need to find a way to disrupt their operations. We can't just play defense, we have to go on the offensive. Corin, ever the strategist, offered his insight. The Zorth Dominion has been developing new weaponry that could be effective against the Guardians' ships. If we can deploy these weapons in key locations, we might be able to slow their advance. Zale added, the Draken Consortium is willing to provide advanced shield technology to protect our forces and civilians. But we'll need time to integrate these systems across the Alliance's fleets. Admiral Cuss nodded in approval. Good. Let's get those weapons and shields deployed as quickly as possible. In the meantime, we need to gather more intelligence on the Guardians' leadership and their command structure. If we can take out their leaders, we might be able to cripple their operations. As the War Council continued their deliberations, the Guardians struck again, this time at a research facility on the planet Voltris, where scientists had been working on a project that could potentially neutralize the Guardians' advanced technology. The facility was obliterated before the scientists could complete their work. The Guardians' tactics were becoming clear. They were not just targeting resources, they were systematically eliminating any threat to their dominance. The Alliance was facing an enemy that was both highly intelligent and ruthlessly efficient. In response, the War Council accelerated their efforts. Fleet commanders from across the Alliance coordinated their forces, deploying ships to protect vulnerable planets and outposts. The Zorth Dominion's new weaponry was distributed to frontline units, while the Draken Consortium's shields were installed on key vessels. Despite these efforts, the Guardians continued their onslaught. Every victory the Alliance claimed was met with a counterstrike from the Guardians, who seemed to anticipate their every move. It was a war of attrition, and the Alliance was struggling to keep up. In the midst of the conflict, Envoy Lyra Voss and a team of Draken scientists made a breakthrough. They had discovered a potential vulnerability in the Guardians' ships, an ancient code embedded in their systems that could be exploited to disable their defenses. But implementing this strategy would require a daring operation deep within enemy territory. Admiral Cuss quickly approved the plan, knowing that it might be their only chance to turn the tide. A small, elite team was assembled for the mission, consisting of the best soldiers, engineers, and hackers from across the Alliance. Commander Elena Carter was chosen to lead the team, with Ambassador Corin serving as her second-in-command. The mission, codenamed Operation Disruptor, was risky. The team would need to infiltrate a heavily fortified Guardian outpost, upload the disabling code, and escape before the Guardians could retaliate. Failure was not an option. The fate of the galaxy depended on their success. As the team prepared for the mission, Elena felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. The Guardians were unlike any enemy she had faced before, and the stakes had never been higher. But she was determined to see the mission through, no matter the cost. The Indomitable carried the strike team to the edge of Guardian-controlled space, where they boarded a stealth ship designed to evade detection. The ship was equipped with the latest in Draken cloaking technology, allowing them to slip past the Guardian's sensors. The journey to the Guardian outpost was tense, with every second feeling like an eternity. The team remained silent, focused on the task ahead. As they approached the outpost, Elena could see the massive Guardian ships patrolling the area, dark, ominous vessels that exuded a sense of ancient power. The stealth ship maneuvered carefully, avoiding detection as it drew closer to the outpost. Once they were within range, the team prepared to disembark. Elena gave the order, and they launched their assault. The Guardians were caught off guard by the sudden attack. The strike team moved with precision, disabling security systems and neutralizing any resistance. Elena and Corin led the charge, guiding their team through the labyrinthine corridors of the outpost. They reached the central control room, where the team's hacker began uploading the disabling code into the Guardian systems. The process was agonizingly slow, with every passing second increasing the risk of discovery. The tension was palpable as the team defended the control room against waves of Guardian soldiers. Finally, the code was uploaded. The Guardian systems began to malfunction, and their defenses weakened. The strike team had achieved their objective, but they weren't out of danger yet. The Guardians were regrouping, and reinforcements were on the way. Elena ordered a retreat, and the team fought their way back to the stealth ship. The escape was chaotic, with Guardian ships closing in on them from all sides. But thanks to the disruption caused by the uploaded code, the stealth ship managed to break free and jump to hyperspace, narrowly avoiding destruction. Operation Disruptor was a success. The Guardians' ships across the galaxy began to experience system failures, giving the Alliance a much-needed advantage. With their defenses compromised, the Guardians were forced to pull back, buying the Alliance time to regroup and strengthen their forces. But the war was far from over. The Guardians were still a formidable enemy, and their resolve had only hardened in the face of the Alliance's resistance. The stage was set for a final decisive battle, one that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The Alliance had struck a critical blow, but the Guardians would not go down without a fight. The countdown to the final confrontation had begun, and both sides were preparing for the epic clash that would reshape the future of the galaxy forever. The final gambit. The success of Operation Disruptor had given the Alliance a much-needed boost, but everyone knew that the hardest battles were yet to come. The Guardians were wounded, their once impenetrable defenses compromised, but they were far from defeated. The Alliance had bought time, but it was clear that the Guardians would soon launch a counteroffensive that could crush all resistance if not met with overwhelming force. Admiral Cuss stood at the helm of the Indomitable, reviewing the latest reports from the front lines. The Guardians were regrouping, consolidating their forces in preparation for a final, all-out assault on the Alliance. The situation was dire, but she was not without hope. The disabling code had worked better than expected, causing widespread disruption among the Guardians' fleet. Now was the time to strike, to take the fight to the heart of the Guardians' empire. "Admiral, the War Council is ready," a junior officer reported. Cuss nodded and made her way to the war room, where the leaders of the Alliance were gathered. There was a new sense of unity among them, forged in the fires of conflict. Representing their various civilizations, each leader had a personal stake in the outcome of the war, but all were now committed to the common cause. "We've struck a blow, but the Guardians will retaliate with everything they have," Admiral Cuss began, addressing the assembled leaders. "We must act now, while they're still reeling from our attack. Our best chance is to take the fight to their central command. If we can destroy it, we can break their hold on the galaxy." Envoy Lyra Voss, who had been instrumental in uncovering the Guardians' vulnerability, spoke next. "Our intelligence indicates that the Guardians' central command is located on their homeworld, a heavily fortified planet deep in their territory. It's protected by a massive fleet and planetary defenses that are nearly impenetrable, even with their systems disrupted." Ambassador Corin, always the tactician, leaned forward. "We need a diversion, something to draw their forces away from the homeworld while we launch a direct assault. If we can split their defenses, we might stand a chance." Arctanzil added, "The Draken Consortium can coordinate a series of hit-and-run strikes across key Guardian outposts, drawing their fleet into a prolonged chase. Meanwhile, the main fleet can prepare for the assault on the homeworld." The plan was daring, even reckless, but it was their best shot. The War Council agreed unanimously, and preparations began immediately. The Alliance's fleet, now reinforced with the latest Zorth and Drakan technology, assembled for the final offensive. Every available ship was mobilized, from massive battlecruisers to agile fighters, all converging on a single point in space, the gateway to the Guardians' homeworld. As the fleet prepared for the jump, Commander Elena Carter gathered her strike team for a final briefing. They had been chosen for a critical mission, to infiltrate the Guardians' central command and plant a bomb that could destroy the entire facility. It was a suicide mission, but Elena and her team were ready to give their lives to ensure the Alliance's victory. "Listen up," Elena began, her voice steady but intense. "This is it, the final push. We're going deep into enemy territory, and there's no coming back. Our mission is simple: get in, plant the bomb, and give the Guardians something to remember us by. We've trained for this, we've fought for this, and now it's time to finish the job. Her team responded with resolute nods. They were the best of the best, handpicked for their skills and bravery. Each one knew the risks, but they were all committed to the cause. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, the stars stretching into streaks of light as they hurtled toward the Guardians' homeworld. As they emerged from hyperspace, the enormity of their task became clear. The Guardians' fleet was massive, their ships bristling with weapons and defenses. Even with the disruption caused by the disabling code, the Guardians remained a formidable force. The battle began with a ferocity that shook the very fabric of space. Alliance ships clashed with Guardian vessels in a chaotic melee, laser fire and explosions lighting up the void. The Draken hit-and-run strikes had succeeded in drawing some of the Guardians' forces away, but the defenders were still numerous and determined. Amidst the chaos, Elena's strike team launched their assault. Their stealth ship slipped through the battle, evading detection as it made its way toward the planet's surface. The Guardians' defenses were formidable, but the team's expertise in covert operations allowed them to penetrate the perimeter. They landed near the Central Command Facility, a massive fortress carved into the side of a mountain. The facility was a stark contrast to the organic architecture of the Guardians' ships, a cold, angular structure that seemed more like a tomb than a command center. The team moved quickly, navigating through the labyrinthine corridors of the facility. Guardian soldiers patrolled the halls, but the strike team's advanced stealth suits rendered them nearly invisible. They reached the core of the facility, where the bomb was to be planted without incident. As they set the charges, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The facility was too quiet, too empty. It was as if the Guardians were expecting them. Her suspicions were confirmed when the facility's alarms suddenly blared to life, and Guardian soldiers poured into the chamber. "It's a trap," Corin shouted, drawing his weapon. The team quickly formed a defensive perimeter, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The Guardians had anticipated their attack, and now they were closing in. "Finish setting the charges," Elena ordered, firing her weapon at the advancing Guardians. The team worked frantically, but it was clear they were running out of time. The Guardians were relentless, and the team's position was rapidly becoming untenable. With the charges set, Elena made a fateful decision. "We need to buy time for the fleet," she said, her voice resolute. "I'll stay behind and detonate the bomb manually. The rest of you get out of here and warn the fleet." The team protested, but Elena was adamant. "That's an order. Go now." Reluctantly, the team retreated, leaving Elena alone in the chamber. She watched as the Guardians closed in, her finger hovering over the detonator. The facility shook as the battle raged outside, but Elena remained calm. She knew that her sacrifice would not be in vain. As the Guardians breached the chamber, Elena smiled grimly and pressed the button. The explosion was cataclysmic. The entire facility was engulfed in a massive fireball, the shockwave rippling across the planet's surface. The Guardians' central command was obliterated, and with it, their control over their fleet. In the aftermath of the explosion, the Guardians' forces faltered. Their ships, now without centralized command, became disorganized and vulnerable. The Alliance fleet seized the opportunity, launching a full-scale assault that decimated the remaining Guardian ships. The battle was won, but at a great cost. Elena and her team had given their lives to ensure the Alliance's victory. Their sacrifice would be remembered as the turning point in the war, the moment when the tide finally turned in favor of the Alliance. As the smoke cleared and the last of the Guardian ships were destroyed, Admiral Cuss stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, her heart heavy with the loss of so many brave souls. But she knew that their sacrifice had not been in vain. The galaxy was finally free from the Guardians' tyranny. The war was over, but the work of rebuilding was just beginning. The Alliance had triumphed, but the scars of the conflict would linger for generations. As the fleet began its journey home, the leaders of the Alliance vowed to honor the memory of those who had fallen and to ensure that such a war would never happen again. For the first time in a long while, there was hope for the future. The galaxy had been saved by the courage and determination of its people, and the legacy of their victory would endure for all time. A new dawn. The stars above the Alliance capital twinkled brightly as the galaxy celebrated its newfound freedom. The war against the Guardians had ended in victory, but the cost had been steep. Now, as the survivors gathered to honor the fallen and forge a new path forward, the weight of what had been achieved and what had been lost hung heavy in the air. Admiral Cuss stood on the grand balcony of the Alliance Council chamber, overlooking a vast crowd of citizens from countless worlds. The people of the galaxy had come together in this moment of triumph, united not by fear, but by hope. The nightmare of the Guardians was over, and a new era was beginning. Behind Cuss, the leaders of the Alliance were gathered, representatives of every civilization that had fought in the war. Envoy Lyra Voss stood alongside Ambassador Corin, Arkansas, and other dignitaries, their expressions a mixture of relief and solemnity. They had won the war, but they knew that peace would require just as much courage and determination as the battles they had fought. As the crowd quieted, Admiral Cuss stepped forward to address them. Her voice was strong, carrying across the plaza with the authority that had guided the Alliance through its darkest hours. People of the galaxy, she began, today we stand on the threshold of a new era. The Guardians, who sought to dominate and enslave us, have been defeated. Our victory was hard-won, and it came at a great cost. Many brave souls gave their lives so that we could stand here today, free from tyranny. She paused, allowing the weight of her words to settle over the crowd. But our victory is not just a triumph of arms. It is a triumph of unity, of cooperation, of the indomitable spirit that resides in each of us. We prove that together, we are stronger than any force that seeks to divide us. The crowd erupted in applause, the sound a wave of shared emotion that resonated through the plaza. When the noise subsided, Cuss continued, "The war may be over, but our work is far from finished. The scars of this conflict will take time to heal, and the rebuilding of our worlds will require all of us to come together, just as we did in battle. We must ensure that the sacrifices made in this war are honored by creating a galaxy where such a conflict can never happen again." She turned to the leaders behind her, acknowledging their contributions. "Each of you has played a vital role in our victory, and each of you will play a vital role in the peace that follows. Let us build a future where the bonds forged in war become the foundation for lasting peace." The leaders nodded in agreement, and the crowd once again broke into applause. The sense of unity that had sustained them through the war now offered the promise of a brighter future. As the ceremony continued, the names of the fallen were read aloud, a somber reminder of the price of victory. Among them was Commander Elena Carter, whose sacrifice in the final battle had been instrumental in turning the tide. Her name, like those of countless others, would be remembered for generations to come. After the ceremony, as the crowd began to disperse, Cuss found herself alone on the balcony, gazing out at the stars. The weight of leadership pressed down on her, but she knew that the galaxy was in good hands. The people had proven their resilience, their strength, and their capacity for hope. Now it was up to them to shape the future. Envoy Lyra Voss joined her, her presence a comforting reminder of the bonds that had been formed in the crucible of war. "You did well today," Lyra said softly. "We all did," Cuss replied. "But the real test begins now. Can we hold on to this unity? Can we build something lasting from the ashes of war?" Lyra smiled. "I believe we can. We've already done the impossible. Why stop now?" Cuss chuckled, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. "You're right. We faced the worst, and we came out stronger. Now, we just need to make sure that strength endures." As they stood together in silence, the first rays of a distant sunrise began to illuminate the horizon. It was a new dawn, not just for their world, but for the entire galaxy. The Guardians' reign of terror was over, and in its place, a new era of peace and cooperation was beginning. Admiral Cuss knew that the road ahead would be difficult, that there would be challenges and setbacks. But she also knew that the people of the galaxy were capable of greatness, of rising above their differences to create a future where all could thrive. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to feel hope, real, unshakable hope for the future. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Cuss turned to Lyra. "We have a lot of work to do." Lyra nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "Then let's get started." Together, they walked back into the council chamber, ready to face the challenges of peace with the same resolve they had shown in war. The galaxy was theirs to shape, and they were determined to create a legacy of freedom and unity that would last for generations to come. And so, under the light of a new dawn, the galaxy began its journey toward a brighter future, forever changed by the courage and sacrifice of those who had fought for its freedom.